Alright class, today we're going to discuss an introduction to Visual Basic for applications, and we're going to be looking at the Microsoft Excel workbook. Today we want to create our first macro. In this subsection we will show you how to create your first macro using the Visual Basic program. We would use the word classic hello world example to create this example. Please follow through the steps. So first we're going to open Visual Basic Editor by going to the tools menu, or if you want you could just click on Alt, or I shouldn't say click but hold on Alt and let's press F11 to get to the Visual Basic Editor. On the Visual Basic Editor you're going to see the 3 sheets by default that is what's there in Microsoft Excel. What we're going to do is to select a module by clicking Insert and then select the option module from what we did the last time in class, and we're going to do the classic example of Hello World. So in this module we're going to start it off by sub, and we're going to show message. We're going to start sub, and it means subroutine in Visual Basic for application, and I'm going to call my function show message, or I shouldn't say function but my subroutine called show message. In this one you would realize that the end sub option would come up, and I'm going to type my first command called message box, and then I'm going to open quotes and type hello world, just like any other program that you would have written in Java and so on. And I'm just going to put a little hyphen here, well I mean an exclamation mark and a colon. From now what you're going to do here is you're going to run it, select the run option, and then select the run command, and then you will see hello world showing up in your sub or on the Microsoft Excel workbook sheet. Okay, this lesson we're going to record a particular macro, and what I'm going to do first in this recording macro, I'm just going to do a very simple exercise in terms of setting background color. So let's get with it. I'm going to go to the view option, and I'm going to select the option macro, and I'm going to select record macro. I'm going to type this macro because I want this macro to have a particular name. So I'm going to say set background color, and I'm going to type yes, you know my beautiful name Andrew Kedugan. I'm going to select OK. What I'm going to do now is to go back to the home, and I'm going to select just this paint bucket tool here to just have cell A1 highlighted. Now before I run this macro, what I want to do is to head back into the Visual Basic Editor. So I'm going to select Alt F11, and I'm going to go to modules, and I will select modules 1, and you're going to see my code and my syntax pertaining to this particular macro that I've created in terms of the syntax. Now what if I wanted a specific cell in a specific range to be changed that particular color in which my macro defines? So I'll go back to my worksheet, and I'm going to select any range. I'm going to select this particular range here. I'm going to go to view, and then I'm going to go to the option macro, and I'm going to go to view macro. Well, I didn't stop macro, so I'm supposed to stop the macro first. So I'm going to go to the option view macro, and then I'm going to select run, and look what happened. I've actually created a background color in this particular image. Our next lesson we'll get into some little bit more in-depth programming within Visual Basic for applications. Alright, for this particular lesson I'm going to actually do some modules and procedures which we have been doing in sort of a certain way. I want to begin by saying a module is a container for a procedure shown in all the previous examples that I have shown just now there. So a procedure is literally a unit of code enclosed either in a sub and the end sub statement, or between a function and the end function statement. Let's do a simple procedure, or a module I should say, to print the current date and time in cell C1. So what do? We'll go to insert, and we would select a module, and I'm going to type sub, and I'm going to call this sub show time. That would be my function, and I'm going to select range. I'm going to put this range in cell C1, and I'm going to let cell C1 equal to the command now, and let's execute this command and see what happens when we run the macro. So we're going to run the macro, And when we look at our Excel worksheet, we will see the now command is showing up in cell C1. Let's get a little deeper into some other stuff that we could do. Like for example, if I wanted to sum up two numbers, I could pass a function and let me just call this function sum num, and I could have a variable x and y in this case, and again you'll see the end function comes up, and then I could put sum num, which is the function that I specify will be equal to the variables of x plus y in this instance here. And you could see in this Visual Basic we could either have a private or a public scope. A procedure could either be private or public. So for example, if I wanted to do something like public, well, like this thing on top here, I could have put for example public show sometime, or I could have actually put it as in private sub time. So basically, you know, a procedure with public scope is accessible to all procedures in every module in the workbook in which a procedure is declared, and in all workbooks that contains a reference to the workbook. So by default, the procedures are all public, and we know what private would be, you know, for that particular function within that one workbook. So what if we wanted to, let me just delete all of this, and we're coming back to this function sum num just not like that. What if I wanted to do like a call in a sub procedure, a function procedure? You know, like there are two ways to call this sub procedure. What if I wanted to call a sub procedure like z? So if I say like sub, and I call this z, and I'm going to put this a, so probably I would call this z function here, and let me just message box whatever is stored in that variable a. So I'm going to just put that as a right here, and let me just tidy up this code a little bit and just kind of like send it out. What if I wanted to call that procedure now? I could probably say sub, I could put x, I could call it anything, and I could just call, so I will say call, that call command, call z, and since it's, the a is that function, so I could put call Andre Cadogan. Yes, of course I could do that. Why not call me? You could call me connect. Let me run this procedure and see if my syntax is correct. So if I run it and I run the macro name x here, you'd see it called the procedure Andre Cadogan. Now what if I wanted to do it a little differently, like probably call y instead, like sub y, and I call z, and I don't put the code, so I just probably just leave it as it is, take off the you know, the open and close brackets, and just leave the close by itself. What will happen here? Okay, I am sure that I could put a space in between this, right? Cool. And let me see if this would work like that. Would it work or would it not work? I'm not sure. But if I was supposed to call, but I wouldn't be, well, I guess I'll be calling z because I just named the variable like that. So if I was to run the procedure, what would I get? Yes, I would definitely get a syntax error here in this case. So I guess what I would have to do is probably put back sub y, you know, and let me see if I call this function like this, put it back. Oops, so all this thing that's popping up here, so all these keyboard shortcuts that I'm using, and if I was to run it now, let's see, well, it's still happening here. So you see what has happened, that some Excel worksheets may take the syntax, some may not take the syntax, because I know when I tried it in 2003, it worked to a certain extent, because I'm calling the function z. I don't know why I don't want to call my name, so we know that is a syntax error right there. Alright, cool. Let's just move on a little bit. Let's delete all that because we just look at the message box function. We're coming back to that message box to sum these two numbers. So in the following example, we're going to look at this function procedure to do this. So let's look at sub, and we're going to do show sum. Or I could have put it as function 2 as well, show sum. and I'm going to message box this. I'm going to go to message box some well, some num, right? And I'm going to go to tree, and I'm going to select 5. Now I'll have to go back to write a function for this here, by the way. So I'll just come down here a little bit and write this function so you could call. So I'm going to go to function sum num, because it's calling in that instance there. I'm going to put a variable x and y from what I did up a little earlier, and I'm going to put the function inside here, sum num equal x plus y, right? And let's see if this would work in this case. You know, I have to reverse it to something like that. So if I was to run this procedure, let's take a look at it. Hey, look, I get the message box showing up as 8. Understand? So we seen some nifty things that we could do with you know, with Visual Basic for applications and so on. So I guess when we come back, we want to pass arguments and reference them by value.